In the Bible, wicked, when it talks about the wicked people, it's not talking about people who do things that we morally disagree with. In the Bible, the fool is the person who says there is no God. You can look that up. And the wicked are the people who teach others that there is no God. By the way they live, they not only believe they have no need for God and there is no God, but they teach that to other people. So as we read Psalm 1 tonight, read it with that thought in mind. It's not contrasting nice people and not nice people. It is contrasting people who believe there's a God and turn toward that God, and the people who live as if there is no God and teach others to live the same way. So let's read Psalm 1 together, back and forth. Pardon?
It's a little not being nice.
Yeah, it's a little not being nice, but there are very nice, and I'm going to get to this when we get to the Beatitudes, the mini Beatitudes. There are people who are very, very good people, but the Bible would call them wicked if their goodness causes them to live in a way that they don't need God, and they teach others that they don't need God. Thus, you can have really nice and kind people, but they have a problem. And you can have people whose lives are in disarray, but they are falling on their knees like the fellow in the New Testament and saying, I believe, help my unbelief, Lord, forgive me, I'm a sinner. That fellow is in the first half of this psalm. The really good people who can make it on their own are in the second half of the psalm. So it's a real twist. Let's read the stanzas back and forth. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seat of scoffers.
Their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law meditate day and night.
They are like trees planted by streams of water, which yield their fruit in its season, and their leaves do not wither. In all that they do, they prosper.
The wicked are not so, but they are chaff and winter and strife.
Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous.
For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish.
Okay, keeping that in mind, a side thought for you this evening that I read in, we were doing our book study, Tim Hansel, You Gotta Keep Dancing. And he pointed out that we are to flourish like palm trees. Do you know that palm trees grow in deserts?
Really?
Yeah. And we're supposed to bear fruit, and fruit trees grow in valleys, not on mountaintops. Just as you read this psalm, kind of ponder where these trees are flourishing. For the gospel, I want to read from Luke 6, verses 17 to 26. Understand the setting of this, okay? Jesus has been teaching. There are crowds of people wanting to be healed. He has evidently been sitting up a bit on the mountainside with the people down in the crowd, and he's kind of sitting with the disciples. So as it starts, he comes down into the mass of the people to teach. Jesus came down with them and stood on the level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and all the coast of Tyre and Sidon. By the way, Tyre and Sidon is one of the most wicked areas of the country of Israel. Woe be it to Tyre and Sidon. They were known for their sinfulness. Understand who this crowd is. People from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. They had come to hear Jesus and to be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all in the crowd were trying to touch him, for power came out from him and healed all of them. Then Jesus looked up at his disciples. Okay, you've got the setting. He's surrounded by people that are untouchables. You didn't touch sick people because you would become unclean with them. You didn't touch them. You didn't go near them because it was almost like God's condemnation would spread to you if you got close. He's enmeshed with these people, and he looks, okay, as if I have thousands of people here, and he looks at his disciples, okay. He looked at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you, and revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven. For that is what their ancestors did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the prophets. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Grace and peace from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. I would share with you, I was the kind of kid that some teachers liked and a lot of teachers didn't like when I came through the system. Because I was the kid always asking questions. Always having questions. I still always have a question. People sit next to me and they say, you ask the question, okay? Because I've always got questions. I'm the kid who sat there with the spoon at the gathering upside down with the jello sticking to it, asking how long can the jello stick to the spoon and why does it finally let go? I'm the kid who was sitting there who would flip different things off the spoon to see how high it would fly. I'm the kid who was waking up at night and saying, so when you get in a swimming pool, where does your weight go? Because people weigh less in the water. You know, if I'd had spoons for the children's sermon, I'd show them the spoon. And I'm still working on just exactly why it is we're upside down when you look at yourself in a spoon. Have you ever noticed that you're upside down? I've always had questions. And some people like that, and some people consider people like me troublemakers. Before I was a pastor, when I was a layperson, in my married days, we went to one of these big evangelical churches with 4,000 people. We were in the young adult class, and somebody was leading a class on being submissive to your wives. And of course, I raised my hand.
Yeah.
So could you just, as you're teaching this, could you just explain clearly what your definition of submission is? And this huge debate broke out, and people were standing up and waving their Bibles at each other and yelling. And the pastors of this huge church took the time to call me in personally and confront me as a troublemaker.
You started rocking.
I've just grown up that way. And when I read the Bible, there are things that make sense to me and there are things that don't. This passage, the Matthew version, the Luke version, are among the ones that don't make sense. I have grown up, I have preached it, I have said, well, it's the spiritually poor, and you know, when we get to heaven, whatnot, yada yada. When I was in college, I went through college with a bunch of rich kids, and I had $5 if I was lucky to my name. We pooled our quarters on Friday. You know, I put everything I owned in a suitcase and a half. And I could never figure it out. And then you go to church and say, blessed are the poor. You say, what is so cotton-picking blessed about being poor? You know? I ran out of food before the end of my last semester, sold blood to buy food, to be able to buy food. You say, what is so blessed about being hungry? If I come to you and I say, I'm hungry, don't tell me God's going to feed me someday. That does nothing for me. What is so great? Think about, you know, when we are in pain, when your first pet dies, when your friend dies, when your parent dies, when you go through a divorce, when you lose your job, what is so blessed about being in weeping pain? But we preach these passages year after year. And the someday answer, to be honest with you, just doesn't personally cut it, even though I try to make sense of it for everybody else. So around it comes again, and I said, oh, God, do I have to preach this passage again? What is so blessed? This is what I've come to. I don't have my collar on tonight because these are my thoughts, okay? Jesus is standing there with this crowd of needy, broken, borderline, looked down on, rejected people. And he says, blessed, not happy, blessed. There is a blessing in the suffering for you. So what's so blessed? And this is the contrast. I think what he's trying to say is, these were the rejects. These were the people who couldn't afford the turtle doves and the cows. These are the people who made the offerings over and over and didn't get the healings. These were the people that the pure-blooded Jews looked down on, and the Pharisees and the scribes and the priests wouldn't touch. And how did they respond to being the rejects? In their pain, in their suffering, in their hunger, in their mourning, in their disease, they realize the truth that they cannot heal themselves, and they cannot help themselves, and they cannot fix themselves. And the blessing is that the neediness, the pain, the suffering drives them toward Jesus. When we suffer, we make a choice. We can curl up and blame God and blame the world and pull the sheets of our personality over us and hide and just wimp out our lives. Or we can battle that with God. When I was confirmed, I didn't like the passage my parents and leaders picked for me. I think of myself as a very obedient child. It may not have been true. But I picked from Job. As for me, I would commit my cause to God. And that's what these people are doing, is in their need, they say, God is moving through Jesus. We can see the power. We know God is present. And we are going to seek God out and try to get in touch with God's power. And he says, blessed are you. You have found the blessing in the suffering, which is to turn toward God for the help, which will be eternal help. And then he looks at those who don't need a healing, those who've made their sacrifice so they are forgiven. The righteous do not have need of a physician. Remember that passage? You're reading with sinners. Well, good people don't need me. And in our wealth, in our ability, in our whatever, we no longer seem to need God as much. We don't have time to worship because we've got money to be out on the golf course. I can't afford the golf club, but we can afford the country club. We can afford to be out traveling. We can afford to pay for our rent and we don't worry about our shelter. We become numbed to the needs. And he says, woe be it. He doesn't say you're damned, but he says, woe be it. When you have the blessings and the healings, you are in danger. Those of you who've really gotten the blessings in this life understand you are in jeopardy. That in experiencing the help and the blessing and the money and the friends and the success, you will say we don't need the 10 Commandments in the court. You will say we don't need to pray in Congress. We will say we don't need God's help in the schools for kids to learn, and we will forbid kids to pray and ask God to help them with tests. Woe be it, because in your success, not only will you cut yourself off from God, but you will begin to cut others off as if they just applied themselves, they could make it without God. Thus, it becomes for me a powerful lesson for as an individual, as families, as communities, I think as churches. My daughter goes to a church that has 4,000 members, and they realize, you don't realize at first that you are losing people. You have to lose enough people to know that you're losing. We lose 5 people up at Prince of Peace. We know there's a hole, But people don't begin praying and really working. What has it taken in losses for us to get beyond being friendly to people? What did it take to us to be friendly to people who came in the door in the 90s? We didn't worry about that because people just, the fish just jumped in the net. And it is only as we have begun losing people, as we are in need and grieving, that we have turned our energy toward what does it mean to reach out. In our success, we became numb. I think that's what the passage is about. That where is the blessing? So I leave you with that thought. I have come to terms with the passage myself. And I hope that helps you when you come across this little passage in Matthew and Luke, because it comes up at least once or twice a year. Let us pray.